Everything is covered with invisible webs of policy.
Economic policies from government don't just come out of nowhere.
You can critically assess policy.
Citizens, we need to know who's being regulated, how we're being regulated, and why we're being regulated.
The Policy Studies major at Mount Royal invites you to join a dynamic student community that's learning how to advise, critique, write, and implement policy.
To learn what policy studies is all about, just start thinking about that word, policy, and what it means. A policy is a set of statements adopted by a government or a company that provides a framework for human behavior.
Policies affect where we go, what we do, and how everything works, from what we read to what we listen to what we watch in our various forms of media.
We have regulatory agencies that set policies that affect every single product or service you'll ever buy or sell.
Every inch of our homes and properties is covered by some form of policy. Every street and sidewalk, every commercial space and public building, even wilderness spaces.
We have health policies, privacy policies, environmental policies.
Human beings are policy animals. It's the way we decide as a society how everything is supposed to be.
A policy studies major empowers you to understand what are essentially the flowcharts for human behavior.
The Policy Studies major is taught by professors whose areas of expertise span 3 disciplines: economics, policy, and political science. They gained their practical understanding of policy issues through the experience in organizations like the World Bank, Canada's Department of Finance, think tanks, and various international and local organizations. You'll see several of your profs appearing in local and national news media. They get asked by news agencies to provide informed commentary on matters of public policy. And when you take a policy studies major, you start to join them in a way. Become one of those people who sees more deeply into issues of the day because you can critically assess policy.
The internship component of the Policy Studies major is where students put their applied policy writing skills to work through positions in education, business, government, healthcare, the energy sector, research institutes, lobby groups.
The Policy Studies program here at Mount Royal has an internship component attached to our degree, and I felt like that was pretty important for most students because it gives you a lot of real-world experience. The internship that I'm working on right now is with a company called Plains Midstream Canada. They are an oil and gas pipeline operator.
I actually got an internship at the City of Calgary, working in their downtown strategy department. I start in a few days.
The Policy Studies curriculum, particularly the required courses, provides students with a solid foundation for learning to write policy, in addition to other kinds of course experiences that are available as well.
Coming from a background as a musician and working in the music industry in a number of roles, I've found my way into policy studies as an academic, researching a lot of the same concerns that were occurring to me then. How is it that we get to hear the music that we do? What are the conditions under which music can be made, and what role does the state play in that process? So we can look at questions of how best we can support our musicians and creators, how we can ensure that music is being made locally and helps to feed our identity at a local and even national level. And really, how does music play a role in forming those kinds of identities in the first place?
One of my favorite courses to teach is macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of big picture economic factors like economic growth or inflation. Macroeconomic policies, they affect everything. Recession, unemployment, inflation, these are all macroeconomic problems. You won't understand the policy you are looking at and its effect on citizens unless you understand the economic theory behind it. Let's say the government is concerned with slow economic growth. Does the government actively use policies to fix the problem? Or does it have a policy of leaving the economy mostly to its own devices?
One of my favorite courses to teach in Policy Studies major is about economic regulation of global businesses. Regulations, they're all made up of policies, and policies affecting multinational corporations and involving millions, often billions of dollars. Not all players in global markets play fair. So we talk about what can go right and what can go wrong with cartels, mergers, illegal pricing practices, and so on. Sometimes policies with a global reach can have a negative impact on local economies and populations. It's tremendously important to have policy experts who understand policy implications and who can speak out before a harmful policy becomes established.
So one of my top classes was actually called Managing and Implementing Public Policy. This class actually delved into how policies become reality, and it explored topics such as policy formation, government roles when it comes to policy, and effective strategies. And it was very captivating to witness how theory can come to life.
Students come together with other students across Alberta and represent country delegations in a simulated United Nations conference. It's a great way to discover how policy affects us at both a personal level and a planetary level.
One of my favorite courses to teach is about law, politics, and the judicial process. The reason I like it so much is because it includes what's called a moot court, where students get to argue an actual Supreme Court judgment at the Calgary Court Centre. Students act as lawyers and as judges in a hearing held in a working courtroom presided over by a justice from the Court of King's Bench or the Alberta Court of Appeal.
We actually were able to go to the courthouse and we essentially enacted out a case, and it was so fantastic, the skills that you learned.
It's these sorts of experiential learning opportunities. They give a policy studies major insight into the policies and processes that govern our society. So our graduates end up qualifying for positions like management and communications assistants or planning and coordination officers. They can become policy analysts in the public sector, the private sector, and the not-for-profit sector. They can go anywhere that you find policy, which is pretty much everywhere.
I found the instructors in our program very helpful because they would offer a lot of one-on-one time with students.
Yeah, such an amazing prof, very valuable insights.
Personally, in my experience, all of the profs in policy studies, they genuinely care about your learning, and the small class sizes just are really helpful to even get to know the profs at a deeper level, and I think that just really enhances your learning. In my opinion, they were all fantastic.